Mario and his allies have been looked upon as heroes for many years. No matter what it takes, they look to save the day and keep the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond beautiful places. Of course, every good hero needs a good villain, and the Mario franchise has plenty of those. Many of the Mario baddies have actually done some terrible things, so today we're putting them on trial to see exactly what they can be sentenced for. I'm Judge Kifinosi of the One-Up Binge Court, and court is now in session. Let's sentence these Super Mario villains for their crimes. First up on the docket is Bowser. Being Mario's main foe, it's no surprise that Bowser's done some of the nastiest things in the franchise. There are way too many crimes Bowser's committed to go over, so we'll just cover some of the highlights of his evil career. One of his literal biggest would be his attempts to take control of the entire universe in the Galaxy games. That alone makes things not look good for him. He's also committed countless acts of terrorism, attempted murder of various degrees, and of course, the many kidnappings he's committed against people like Princess Peach. Speaking of Peach, another crime Bowser will be charged for takes place in Odyssey when Bowser tries to force Peach into a marriage with him. Not only that, but to set up this crime, he commits a bunch of others along the way, or has people commit them for him, which is also a crime. These include theft, assault, and of course kidnapping. These crimes, along with the many others that Bowser's committed, result in us giving Bowser the death penalty. Since he's fallen into lava and supposedly died before, this is how he'll go out. Only this time, measures will be taken to make sure he never gets back out, nor is ever resurrected. That being said, we still would have some good memories of Bowser to hold on to, the most noteworthy of which can be found in the Nintendo Switch's parental controls video, where he shows just how much he cares for his son Bowser Jr. Speaking of Bowser Jr., he's on trial next. This one is a bit tricky to do. While Bowser Jr. has committed a lot of crimes, some of which, including the obvious ones such as kidnapping, attempted murder, and assault, are the same as his father's, he's still a very young child. On top of that, even right from his debut in Sunshine, we see that many of Junior's actions are influenced by his dad Bowser. When he first reveals himself to Mario, he lists off a few things that Bowser said to him, which made Junior believe that he was protecting and saving who he thought was his mom. Many games after this show him working with his dad, usually doing some of the smaller tasks while Bowser pushed the main plan forward. Referring back to the parental controls video with them again, along with him checking in on Junior over the phone in Mario Plus Rabbids, we have seen instances of Bowser being a good parent before, so we know Bowser could have had a better influence on him. Due to this, we won't hold too many of Junior's crimes against him for now, due to how he was raised. The idea is to sentence him to incarceration in a juvenile correctional facility. The aim is to hopefully reform him into a better Koopa who could aid the good guys on the regular and not just when his father is in his fury state. With this in mind, if Bowser Jr. grows up and he is still committing a lot of the kinds of crimes he commits as a child, then we would have to consider him having the same fate as his father. We now go from some of Mario's main foes to one of Luigi's biggest, King Boo. Being a ghost that's most well known for his appearances in the Luigi's Mansion games, it's no surprise that King Boo would wind up being charged with crimes that involve fear. On several occasions, he can be seen emotionally abusing or psychologically torturing Luigi. Another noteworthy crime is his repeated act of unlawful imprisonment. In many of the Luigi's Mansion games, we see that King Boo has trapped many of the heroes in paintings, preventing them from interfering with his plans. He even tries to do the same to Luigi himself more than once. All of that would lead to other charges, such as mass abductions. One other crime he's being charged with that we want to bring attention to is his criminal act of brainwashing. An example of this can be found in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. We see in the opening that Egad has ghosts working with him that are actually really friendly. However, after King Boo destroys the Dark Moon, that all changes. The ghosts turn on Egad and become much more hostile, making trouble where possible. It's only after the Dark Moon is fully restored that the ghosts are brought back to their former selves. So for a sentence, we can't give King Boo the death penalty because, well, he's a ghost, he's already dead. So we think the most fitting punishment instead would be to seal him back in a painting all on his own and place that painting in a highly secured area. Egad could find a way to make the area ghost-proof. That way, no ghosts can go in and free him, and King Boo couldn't leave even if he escaped the painting again. Moving on now, our next villain being put on trial is Antasma. As far as Mario villains go, Antasma is usually pretty standard. He does some of the traditional Mario villain crimes, such as kidnapping. At the same time, though, he still does some very nasty things. One of the most notorious comes from when he was defeated and sent away to the dream world. Right before he's fully imprisoned, however, he shatters the Dark Stone, which is one of the 2 stones that can grant wishes. The pieces of the broken stone then fell on the residents of the island below. They're all subjected to the effects of the stone, turning into stones themselves. Done with this intent or not, this could still be considered a form of mass murder or of cultural genocide. We could see one of 2 sentences being carried out here. Phantasma could be sealed away again, but forced to watch as others' wishes are granted. On the other hand, he could receive the death penalty, or life in prison at least, simply for what he did to the residents of that island, on top of the other villainous acts he committed toward the game's protagonists. Regardless of his fate, it does not end well for him. We're gonna put another Mario and Luigi villain on trial now, in the form of Cackletta. This villain also commits many standard Mario villain crimes, such as kidnapping, theft, terrorism, murder, you name it. She's also being charged with breaking and entering. In a disguise, Cackletta gets inside Peach's castle only to reveal her true self shortly after and cause havoc. Among other crimes, she's also being charged with mass destruction, brainwashing, possession. Finally, she's being charged with malefic, which is causing or capable of causing harm or destruction, especially by supernatural means. Makes sense? Some of the stuff she and many other villains do in the series can easily be classified as supernatural and certainly harmful. She'll also be receiving the death penalty and will not be able to be resurrected, nor possess anybody to try and extend her lifespan. We now summon Fawful, who was once Cackletta's lackey, into the courtroom. You can expect that while working with Cackletta, Fawful will be charged with aiding and abetting, meaning he helped someone else commit their crimes. This leads to his own charges of murder, terrorism, attempted planetary takeover, mass destruction, theft, brainwashing, the list goes on. When he says the famous words, "I have fury," he is far from kidding. The guy is mad in more than one way. This does lead to us having considered classifying him as legally insane, thus starting to look for a way to remedy this. However, with just how bad his crimes get, and how negatively they affect those around him, we feel more inclined than not to give him the death penalty as well. At least his fury won't be had by anyone else. I mean, he ended up blowing himself up as a last resort to destroy other people, so we can at least relax a little, knowing that he wouldn't be able to try that again either. Our final villain from the Mario and Luigi series we will cover today is Elder Princess Shroob. There are certainly some similarities between her and Cackletta, right down to the crimes and the ways they commit them. For instance, they both are charged with possession, and they both wind up possessing the same character, Bowser, at some point. Just like many other villains, she's charged with attempting to conquer the world. She also commits acts of terrorism in the midst of doing so. There are 2 other crimes that we want to bring attention to, because she commits both of them simultaneously: murder and abuse of power. While Mario and Luigi are up against her, Shroob shoots down her own minions' ships just to use as a means of attacking the plumbers. Let's just say that it's not likely they would have survived the crash. It's bad enough that she would do this to anybody at all, but it becomes even more twisted when considering the fact that she's doing it to her own supposed allies. With that in mind, the Elder Princess Shroob is yet another character who will be receiving the death penalty. Maybe now at least she'll be able to reunite with her sister. Going from one Mario RPG series to another now, we move on to Dementio. Where do we begin with this guy? He not only has some charges that are par for the course at this point, such as kidnapping, terrorism, and murder, but he has some other notable charges as well. Poor Luigi is on the receiving end of some of these crimes also. One of said crimes is brainwashing. Luigi's brainwashed more than once throughout the story of Super Paper Mario, first by Nastasia, and then Dementio eventually does this as well. This turns Luigi into the Green Thunder, Mr. L. Fusing a brainwashed Luigi, the Chaos Heart, and even himself together, Dementio turns into Super Dementio with the intent of destroying all worlds, eventually creating new ones in his own image. He also brainwashes Fractail, which ultimately leads to Mario being forced to fight and destroy him. Dementio is also being charged with psychological abuse. He ends up insulting Luigi, which forces him into a scenario leading to the brainwashing. He also does this in a way to Count Bleck. After finding out how Count Bleck can be emotional at times, Dementio plans to exploit this later on, which would cause Bleck to be weaker. As a result, he would be easier to defeat and usurp. Torture is another big one he's being charged with. It certainly could be argued that Dementio was torturing the previously mentioned characters, but upon becoming Super Dementio, he sends Bleck, Nastasia, and Tippy to another dimension. This is already bad enough and could be seen as unlawful imprisonment, but Dementio makes it perfectly clear that he plans on torturing and killing them later on. At least he's honest. Dementio is arguably one of the biggest and baddest villains in the Paper Mario series, if not the Mario franchise in general. When you even have Bowser, of all people, showing disgust in your actions, you know what you're doing is nasty. Not only is Dementio receiving the death penalty here, but he will be sent to the Super Paper Mario equivalent of the Underworld, where he'll be judged a second time, eventually suffering an even worse fate. If there ever comes a time where the Mario movie becomes its own cinematic universe with multiple films, perhaps Dementio could be their equivalent of Thanos. Heck, if the Mario, Pikachu, and Sonic movies eventually lead to a Smash Bros. Cinematic universe, Dementio could be one of the overarching villains. You never know. For the last two being put on trial today, we're going to tone it down a bit. After all, you can't get much crazier than Dementio, so our first of the final two is Wario. While Wario is more of an anti-hero or neutral type of character at this point, he still has some crimes he needs to answer for. Wario is a very greedy guy, and will go to great lengths, sometimes including theft, in order to acquire incredible riches. He's also getting charged with brainwashing, since he took control of Mario Land's residence while Mario was off in Sarasa Land. Lastly, we're charging Wario with vandalism and evading arrest. In Mario Power Tennis, after he sees that he and Waluigi have been knocked out of the running in the Peach Dome tournament, he gets furious and helps vandalize the picture of Mario and Luigi. When the cops approach, Wario makes a run for it, which is an added offense. We're starting Wario's sentence at 25 years in prison, most of that for the brainwashing incident. However, Wario has an opportunity to lessen his sentence if he agrees to return all the money and riches he acquired through illegitimate means. Though considering how greedy he can be, we would be surprised if he actually goes through with this. Our final character being put on trial today is Wario's buddy, Waluigi. We won't need to talk about this for too long. Waluigi is often in cahoots with Wario, so he's getting charged with most of the same crimes. You know that incident we listed earlier with Wario vandalizing the picture and then running from the cops immediately after? Yeah, of course, Waluigi was involved in that too. We also think Waluigi could be charged with theft. In Mario Party 3, Waluigi owns an island that's used as one of the boards. However, several items and images of the map indicate to us that the island was actually owned by Luigi, and Waluigi took it from him. This includes what appears to be a house with Luigi's name on it, being flattened by a piranha plant. Everything lines up for this when you also consider how much Waluigi dislikes Luigi. Waluigi's sentence won't be as severe as Wario's, we'll only give him 10 years, but we will be willing to let him out earlier if he demonstrates good behavior. And with that, court is adjourned. Let us know if you agree with our sentencing, and remember, if you need a one-up, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any newer videos. See you next time!